thank you. Welcoming to this interesting talk. I'm Dwight Links, a radio journalist, not a personality. I have to include that, but ultimately with 15 years experience in terms of media exposure in both advertising, sales, and journalism. That is my short introduction. However, my introduction will also have a little bit of some looking at the details with regards to our talk.
Amazing. I'm Selma Iyambo, the Hair Voice Fund Ambassador to Namibia, a final year media student at the University of Namibia, and the founder and host of Sex Talks podcast with over 5 years of experience within the sexual reproductive health rights sector. Nice to be here with you, I see.
Thank you.
Journalist and journalist, so I love to see how this is going to roll out.
It is always an interesting, what you call it, like you said, interesting jump off direction, because my observation has always been when journalists engage, it's always a notion of let's try and see who knows the most of something. It's a mini competition.
I'm hoping it's not going to be the same today, because those 15 years I can't actually compete with it because
it's never going to be like that. But if we literally start from the talking point, my specific aspect would be I'm going to talk about exposure. Talking about exposure in terms of the media context, the level of exposure as well that I've also seen, the level of exposure that I'm witnessing from other
media houses,
journalists, even freelancers. We have to include them as well.
Yes, amazing.
There seems to be a broken phone, broken telegram program going on here, and I know it might sound funny to the viewers, but we've got to identify. There is a little bit of a broken telephone system going on here. My observation has been people are coming up with disjointed theories, unsupported theories, and then some are trying to keep it as level-headed as possible because they are also being exposed to said misinformation concepts.
Are you able to give some sort of context when you speak of this theory? Because I'm keen to find out.
Okay. In what I've seen so far, it has literally been the notion where after the judgment took place, let me just be accurate with the timeline. The judgment was in May. We're now in this is now July.
Yes, we're on the 1st of July.
Yeah, 1st of July. So judgment was end of May-ish. Yeah, thereabout. And the announcements that was running around was like, there's a law being changed. And I'm like, a law?
Not a law.
Yeah,
laws.
Yeah. And I was like, a law? How long does the process take for law? And then you find out it's actually a lengthy process. And then I went and read the judgment. And then I realized the only reason why the Ministry of Home Affairs lost was because they didn't certain satisfactory elements, conditions were not met. But what was being said outside is literally that the courts are changing laws. It's not that way.
It's the thing of what is this? The LGBTQIA+ community is actually allowed to be married in Namibia, and it's going to be happening everywhere. And the thing is, and I'm so,
and that's the other broken telephone.
Broken telephone, because I'm looking at it as somebody that has been working within the fraternity for such a long time, and a journalist or a freelancer myself. And the thing says marriage convened abroad. Right? And you think of how it's being brought forward to Namibians. Please make it make sense. How are you an immigrant in your own country? So this is then when it comes back to what happens in the court. Who conveys the message to the general public? How do they convey it? Because if we look at it and then it comes back to the broken telephone, we are going to look at somebody, or I'm going to tell you, please tell your colleagues that we have a meeting today at 5.
Yeah.
What is going to be conveyed to your colleagues is
there's
something
a meeting
different.
right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they all are going to be running and complaining. Why are you scheduling a meeting when we all are not there? Short notice. Right? And this is the same thing that has happened with the court hearing. And this is then when we say interpretation. And it's just not interpretation itself. How do we interpret it? We have various media houses, and we speak of newspapers, we speak of radio, and the thing is, and then we forgot social media.
Oh yes,
the main man of the show.
Yeah,
right. So we speak of that. Who are the people that are actually reading this and interpreting it from the judgment itself?
Yeah.
Who is reading it from the status of the cousin, the brother? Who is reading it from the newspaper? Or who is seeing the image on the newspaper?
Yeah.
Because then everybody else then has that interpretation, and it's a thing of, I get a glimpse of the court hearing. What does it say? None of my business. I'm just going to go on. The country is being taken over by the LGBTQI plus community. The laws are being changed. So I love how you interpreted it as a broken telephone, because it actually captures it all as to how then the media, what is this, shows that.
It's the portrayal, which you've rightly pointed out to, because and I don't like using the word fraternity, because obviously that would mean there's a brotherhood somewhere, but literally it is also the senior operators in terms of the industry, who themselves did not do due diligence in terms of conveying the message, like you mentioned. So what happened was, that's now for any viewer that tries to understand how court documents work. They are public, guys. They are there. They are
available for you.
You just need to know how to do what's the word? A hunt on a website. You just need to deep dive on the website. But it's there.
Not even deep dive. It's a thing of often at times they make it available.
It's navigation. Yeah.
They make it available to various media houses, because then it's a thing of that they have to interpret it, and they trust that they're able to do it better than they are because of the terminologies and everything else. And sometimes we need to learn how to compare what you get from the Namibian newspaper, what you get from the Namibian Sun, what you get from Eagle FM. It's a thing of comparison, and then you have to draw your own conclusion, because you can't just get one thing and you're going to draw a conclusion as to what then happens. And the other thing is, we must read.
Oh yes,
please.
The biggest cow, or the biggest elephant that you can ever encounter is reading culture. But I want to get back to the accessibility point, because accessibility, if we have to look at media is literally the product that's supposed to reach everyone.
Yes.
Supposed to be understood by everyone, easily to consumed by everyone. But what we do witness, and you and I have witnessed this, because we obviously now in terms of the same agreement that the broken telephone thing is becoming more and more often, because sometimes how the communication takes place. For example, in my sense with radio, the report, which was audio, was in the 1 o'clock news bulletin. I come at 4:30. First thing in between, there's a whole different show in between 2:30 and 4:30 is a whole different show. And on that show in between, callers were complaining
to the media house.
No, to the presenter on her show. And the presenter was literally trying to kill off bushfires that were popping up. You know, it's like you'll have these little bushfires starting, and you know it later on start into one big bushfire. So she was literally trying to stem the flow in terms of the sentiment, in terms of the reaction. For me to come on later on, because I knew what the reaction was, because I also purposefully prepared for this talking point, because it was an immediate event. I get on there and I had the court ruling papers, just to say, all that the court told the Ministry of Home Affairs is the fine spouse, and they should have had a wide-reaching public engagement platform, meaning they should have gone to every Namibian and asked them, do you think this can be something we can enact? Do you think we should recognize? That's not what they did. That's not what the Ministry of Home Affairs did. But then, how it was portrayed, like we said now, things just went off. Well, it was like a hot fire running through a bush, through a dry veld with no rain for the past 5 years. So it literally was a tinderbox. What happened? And I'm not using in that sense. Tinderbox is literally a box that catches fire, or that can create a fire.
And that's when we then also see that it's how the media then interprets and shows it to the general public. Then social media comes, because we have read, or we have seen, or we have come to a conclusion that that's what's happening. And then we see how then social media portrays, or how then we go to a specific extent due to the mis and the disinformation to actually go beyond their lives. It's a thing of, now me as somebody that comes from the LGBTQIA plus community as being impacted by this law. Yes, it's a move in the right direction, but at what cost? I can no longer or I can no longer walk in public without anyone having to look at me a specific way or throwing a stone. As a thing of I no longer feel safe. I can no longer go to specific places because we are a target. As a thing of events being cancelled. So at what cost do we then, us as journalists, as people that are supposed to be conveying the message, affect the lives
of others?
Yeah.
And
on social media, it's the bullying.
Oh yes, I've seen the worst parts. No, but kindly continue, because I want to support that point.
It's a thing of the bullying, because I use Twitter more frequent than any other social media platform. And that's where it's most common, because we see what has been happening in Uganda with the recent
the law changes.
That's where the law changed.
Yeah.
But somehow, or surprisingly, it seems like it's in Namibia, but it's not. And so it's a thing of people bashing you. It's a thing of because of this recent court hearing and everything happening. It's a thing of me being on the social media platform and openly complimenting another girl or openly having a conversation about it, and they ask you, "Ooh, I see we have lost you." And I'm like, "What do you mean you have lost me? Have I died and returned after a few years? Or what do you mean you have lost me?"
Yeah.
It's like, now you're playing for the other team. What do you mean? And it's a thing of people constantly going beyond themselves to prove that they are not members of the LGBTQI plus community. When you are not one of them, are you somehow affected? Not at all. You get out of your house, you go to your day-to-day accounts, you access service freely, accessibly at no cost. But what about the rest? It's something that they are not concerned about. Let's say maybe it's a thing of ignorance, or maybe it's a thing of, if it doesn't affect me, so what? Why must I care? And the thing is, what you throw around social media has a huge impact on another person.
Yeah,
that's one thing that
does.
We do not, or some of us do not realize. It's not all of us. We still have those that are really understanding and they interpret information as it is. But then we find those,
they take it to another level.
They take it to another level, to the extent that they make sure that you are uncomfortable in whichever room you find yourself. And that's not how life is supposed to be.
Exactly. Now, there's another thing, Selma, I wanted to add in when you touched on the social media presence of or the involvement of social media. So, I myself am in a specific WhatsApp group where most of Namibia's well-known journalists. I say well-known because obviously you see their names every day on the print on most of the most of the print platforms, and you see them presenting on TV and stuff like that, or they're on the radio. And they themselves were so eager to understand what was going on in the anti-LGBTQ plus WhatsApp groups that were established at the time, right after the reaction.
Yeah, that group.
Were you also in that group? Did you also glimpse at what was being said in those groups?
For my peace of mind, I did not.
You didn't?
I saw the screenshots.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things I couldn't avoid.
Yeah.
But being there myself.
No, but I also saw it on the Twitter feeds, yes. Specifically that week.
That was...
It was brutal. It was brutal. Let's put it into the context for the viewers to understand. It was brutal in the context of, how people were emitting a specific energy. Now, for those that unfortunately went in, we could see they were recounting back to us, on this group where we all are, of what the conversation that was taking place there. One of the screenshots I can assume that you also saw was the one in terms of the forced castration one. Have you ever seen that one? That was on Twitter.
No.
Forced castration. There's not, unfortunately, something towards, doing an evil deed towards another man, because this literally means harming, physical harm. Forced castration was the worst thing I've heard, because...
Maybe by that point I've blocked several people because my block list has gone beyond anything else during that time, because it was getting out of hand.
Yeah. But the what the screenshots I was reading was from concerned community members that saw these screenshots floating and they were just passing it on. Now, from my own exposures to reading, viewing from mostly Western-based accounts and outlets about, their own abortion discussions, as well as also their own LGBTQ plus discussions in their own countries. There was one thing that always changed, that always sort of like concerned me, was the touting about by politicians in those countries or in those territories about the they call it it's a specific psychological program that was indicated as being a completely useless exercise. They call it corrective therapy.
Okay.
So corrective therapy was all about implementing something in order to change the person from having the identity that they identify. I am someone in the LGBTQ plus community. This is who I am. Make peace with me. Literally, this was where the loved ones of this person would put them in an institute, almost like they are of a psychiatric, needing psychiatric assistance, to be corrected. Now, in the broad understanding of expression of freedom, you don't correct someone who indicates in their mind, this is the decision I wish to take with my personal life. This, unfortunately, has been some of the things that even in Namibia, on those anti-groups.
But why do you feel the need to correct somebody if
exactly
they have made up their mind? Why do you feel the need to know about what happens in my private life?
Exactly.
Because the one thing that came from those groups is most of the people were more concerned about people's bedroom issues.
Yeah.
Why does it concern you?
Yeah.
Do we know about your bedroom issues?
Yeah.
Do we care about them?
Do we have to care?
Do
we have to know?
Do we have to know?
care? Yeah.
And the thing is, that's one thing that we as people need to understand as, or maybe it's because we are living or speaking from a place a place of privilege. Nobody ever invades.
But can it be privilege, or is it just that we've developed in a sense of having a fairly liberal approach to identifying that people can have their perspectives, can have their lives?
I'm taking it from the point whereby somebody have come before us and have existed as what we are, and we no longer have to put in the effort for people to accept us as who we are.
Okay, yeah.
That's one thing, and that's why I say we are speaking from a point of privilege because we are living soft. If ever that could be phrased somehow, that's how I would put it. We're living soft, and we're making it to the extent that I'm privileged, I'm living soft, but you, on the other hand, are gonna suffer, and that's not my problem. And because of that, often at times, no one cares about our bedroom issues, and nobody is supposed to care. That's how it is, and that's a living example that you all are supposed to be minding our business. But no ways.
Yeah, people are there. They wish to be invested there.
At this point, I feel like they also want to be present
at the same time.
But I don't know whether I would say they are curious.
No,
or they just want to invade people's privacy.
No, it's literally the invasion of privacy. Because if you look at everything, which literally this whole discussion in Namibia stems from, is how certain demographics in the Namibian society, and I'm saying demographic based upon use age ranges. So between 15 to 25, you find a specific, targeted group of men and women. Whether some of them would be teenagers and developing adolescents, sorry guys, but still. And then between 25, 35, you get a different demographic, or they've matured, or they've done something, or they're now the professionals in your economy. 35, 45, you go up, people are married. 45 to 55, people are, well, they're already sort of like set for life, and they're looking at retirement going ahead. And at every cluster I've witnessed, there's a different perspective to this discussion. And when I lay it out like that, you literally find in that 35 to 45 age range, and I'm going to use a colloquial term, the haters. You find the haters. But between the 45, 55, you find the conservatives, the people that are the parents, the grandparents, the people that have said, okay, I accept you. I'm too tired right now to be debating. They literally have that disposition.
No, as a thing of I have lived.
Yes.
I have explored.
Yes.
Why must I be making decisions that will not impact me in the next 20 years? And these are some of the key things that we then look at, because if there's one thing and we are not going to shy away from, and we need to acknowledge as what has the media done so far to ensure that the general public is aware of this? They've really been doing a brilliant job. And we are not shying away from that, but we also then need to look at going further. How do we ensure that there is an inclusive environment, as in how we narrate the stories, as well as the environment for the people themselves that are being, narrated, or that are being subjects in our stories? Because just that one word, just that one image that we use can has a huge impact on 100 other people that view our sites, that view our social media pages, that read our articles, as well as those that listen,
follow people,
listen to our programs, and also as ordinary human beings, because we live in an era where all of us are now journalists. As much as we want to shy away from it, at this point we all seem to see ourselves as graduates from from various institutions in terms of conveying the the information. Before you retweet, before you share, before you initiate a conversation on social media, be sure to know about the facts, be sure to know about the consequences that come after. And sometimes we need to realize that honesty and sometimes being silent because what you are bound to say can impact another person negatively as a better choice than you actually getting information out there that is not it's not friendly, it's not factual, it's not anything that it can actually make the world a better place. So maybe some bit of silence would do, and some bit of us getting the work done and going beyond what our media houses offer to get the information. Go to the Ministry of Home Affairs and check out on their website. What are the press releases? Reach out if you really want to know about what's happening.
They even have a Facebook page even.
Yes. If you really want to know about what's going on, reach out to their communications and PR person, so we actually do know what is happening and you are spreading the right information. So maybe that would also be my concluding remarks as to how we as the media frame it.
And on my side, I'd like to thank myself, but actually I'd like to thank my are we co-hosting our discussion, or are we just co-participating?
Both.
Oh, we know we're participating. No. But I'd like to, Selma, thank you. That conversation was very insightful, specifically also because you give a direction that sometimes, not a direction, but an insight that sometimes I myself have not seen. But ultimately, it's always about having a conversation that's conducive, not having a conversation that's literally generating further conflict, which ultimately we are trying to avoid in the broader Namibian space.
Yeah, that's true. It's been an amazing conclusion because I've learned a lot, and I was just here nodding, and I'm like, I've been here. I'm a whole journalist, and I'm working in the field, but then there's specific things that I didn't know that you knew. And this is then what brings us to the conclusion that you don't always know everything. Listen, understand, observe, and then you're actually able to know better, and you're actually able to make better decisions and not instill hate into the next person, and not be the reason why the next person is being abused, and not be the reason why the next person is going to therapy because you have then bullied them on social media, or you make sure to spread some sort of misinformation about who they are and what they identify as, because we support human rights, not because there is some sort of agenda that we have backwards. It's that respect that we then extend as human beings. And as viewers, we thank you so much for being part of this conversation, and we hope that you have learned a lot from us. And please do engage so we see how we can make Namibia a better place together, because collaboration and teamwork makes it work. Thank you.